Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a wild journey from the microscopic anatomy of elephants all the way up to the global geopolitical stage, really unpacking what we know about the world's largest land mammal. The recent discoveries we're going to dig into today fundamentally change how we understand these majestic creatures. We're going to see exactly how cutting-edge science intersects with the daily lives of local communities and, ultimately, complex international diplomacy.
Here's our game plan for today. First up, the secret language of elephants. Second, a hidden third species. Third, the human-elephant conflict. Fourth, strategies for coexistence. And finally, the global ivory divide.
Section 1. The secret language of elephants. Okay, so you might already know that elephants can hear air-transmitted sounds from up to 5 kilometers away. But get this, they actually rely on incredible bone conduction hearing to communicate over vastly larger distances. Imagine being able to perceive a warning, or even just a greeting, from a friend who is 10 kilometers away, simply by feeling seismic waves vibrating through the soles of your feet, traveling up your legs and resonating right into your skull. It is an absolute evolutionary masterpiece of communication.
Now, you might think an elephant's ear is just a giant human ear, right? Well, not exactly. It is highly specialized for these low frequencies. An elephant's middle ear bones are actually 9 times heavier than ours, and their eardrums are 7 times larger. This added mass perfectly adapts them to vibrate at low frequencies, around 400 Hz compared to our 1.2 kHz. This allows them to catch those deep, rumbling infrasonic signals traveling through the earth that our ears are just completely deaf to.
And it gets better, because elephants possess a brilliant biological secret weapon. You know how we get annoyed when we wear earbuds because our own chewing or walking sounds get weirdly amplified? Well, elephants use this biological trick on purpose. They can voluntarily contract a special muscle to close their ear canals, acting exactly like biological earbuds. Scientists estimate that this action enhances their bone conduction hearing by up to 30 times. They literally plug their ears to hear the ground better.
Section 2. A hidden third species. For the longest time, we just classified all elephants in Africa as a single species. But looking closely at their genomic history, we can clearly see that the African savanna and African forest elephants are actually 2 entirely distinct species. In fact, evolutionary mapping reveals that the forest elephant is more closely related to the extinct straight-tusked elephant than it is to the savanna elephant roaming just a few hundred miles away. To put into perspective just how distinct they are, genomic research reveals these 2 magnificent animals have been on entirely separate evolutionary paths for roughly 500,000 years. 500,000! There has been 0 significant gene flow between them in all that time. Conservationists argue that treating them as a single species is a massive mistake because they are as biologically distinct from one another as lions are from tigers.
So why does recognizing this third species matter so deeply? Because a one-size-fits-all conservation plan could accidentally destroy the unique genetic traits of both populations. Savanna elephants actually show extremely low genetic diversity due to an ancient evolutionary bottleneck, which makes them super vulnerable to disease. Forest elephants, on the other hand, are highly genetically diverse, but are currently facing a sharp, terrifying population decline as their habitats shrink. We simply cannot save them both if we manage them as if they're the exact same animal.
Section 3. The human-elephant conflict.
Let's head over to the Kasigao Wildlife Corridor in southeast Kenya. This is a vital yet highly contested piece of geography. It's an arid farming region that also happens to be home to Kenya's largest population of around 15,000 elephants. These massive animals use this exact corridor to migrate between the safety of the Tsavo East and Tsavo West national parks, which places them on a direct, unavoidable collision course with human settlements.
You have to put yourself in the shoes of these local communities for a second. To them, an elephant isn't just a majestic, awe-inspiring creature you spot on a safari. It is a multi-ton threat to their literal survival. When an elephant wanders into a maize field at night, it can consume and trample an entire season's harvest in just a few hours. For subsistence farmers who are already battling drought, this crop raiding leads to severe economic hardship, real food insecurity, and a very understandable deep-rooted fear.
Section 4. Strategies for coexistence.
Based on a ton of extensive surveys and collaborative workshops in Kenya, researchers worked directly with local farmers to co-design 5 core strategies. The goal here was to find solutions that were affordable, practical, and actually effective. It's a holistic approach, recognizing that stopping an elephant from eating a crop is really only one piece of a much, much larger puzzle.
And you really don't always need high-tech, multi-million-dollar electric fences to make this work. Simple deterrents like stringing up noisy, shimmering metal strips can easily startle and deter elephants. Or consider something as brilliant as a beehive fence. Elephants are absolutely terrified of bees, specifically of getting stung inside their sensitive trunks. So using these physical and biological barriers is a highly effective way to keep elephants out of crops without harming the animals, while also generating honey that the farmers can sell. It's a total win-win.
But as we noted, holistic coexistence goes way beyond just fences, right? It means adapting multiple aspects of daily life. For instance, planting buffer crops, like chilies, which elephants absolutely hate the smell of. It involves using climate-smart agriculture, like pits, to make the absolute most of scarce rainfall. It means joining cooperatives to weave baskets or access microloans so a family's income isn't purely dependent on a vulnerable crop. And vitally, it involves safety training, teaching people to back away slowly during unexpected encounters rather than shouting or throwing stones, which often provokes fatal charges.
Section 5. The Global Ivory Divide. As we gear up for the upcoming CITES COP20 summit, a quiet but incredibly historic fracture is emerging in southern Africa. For decades, southern African nations have operated as a unified pro-trade bloc, but we're seeing a major shift. Namibia is aggressively pushing Proposal 13 to reopen commercial ivory sales and sell off 46 tons of their stockpile to fund conservation. Yet South Africa, long considered a pioneer of the pro-trade movement, is surprisingly stepping back and sitting this one out entirely.
The exact reasons for South Africa's retreat are actually incredibly pragmatic, as highlighted by their environment minister. This isn't necessarily a massive ideological awakening. The reality is, global markets in the US, China, and the EU have closed. The South African government clearly recognizes that pushing for the ivory trade right now brings severe reputational risks and diplomatic backlash, calculating that the fight simply isn't worth the political capital anymore.
Meanwhile, global NGOs are firmly drawing a line in the sand against Namibia's proposal. The Environmental Investigation Agency, for example, strictly opposes any one-off sales, and they point directly to history. Following similar legal ivory sales in 1999 and 2008, the world saw devastating spikes in illegal poaching because legal markets provided the absolute perfect cover for traffickers to launder illegal poached ivory. With this dynamic in play, we are set for a very tense diplomatic showdown at COP20.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. We've seen how elephants can communicate through the earth itself. We now know that Africa holds not one, but two genetically distinct elephant species, and we've seen that coexistence on a local level is entirely possible. So the big question is, as global policies evolve, will they be able to reconcile the complex biological reality of the modern elephant with the economic and diplomatic realities of our world? Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.